And welcome to the Daily Space Weather, where we bring you the most detailed imagery you'll see anywhere of the closest star. We look at it in various wavelengths for various reasons here at the Smash News Network, least busted name in news. And we'll also be covering some coronal mass ejections, solar flares, some Earth weather as snow falls in the western U.S., and lots more. Whew, let's get to it. Let's zoom in on these wavelengths. This is 335 plus 1700 angstroms from the SDO for the past 24 hours. We've got some evolution of sunspots in the southern hemisphere, some migrating umbrae, some more active regions rising in the northeast. And again, there was a CME that we'll have to cover. There's actually one propagating as we stream the video. Here's your colorized magnetogram for yesterday plus today. This sunspot group here quickly evolved and then evaporated right there. This one has some migrating umbrae where the South Pole umbra is rotating faster than the North Pole one as it speeds away. And here you'll see some of that happening. Again, that's yesterday plus today. We'll zoom in a little bit. We also had an interesting earthquake that we'll go over. First, let's cover volcanoes. So we've got Shivaluch erupting on the Kamchatka Peninsula in an explosive fashion. It's producing a 12,000-foot plume of volcanic ash. Flight level 120 over Shivaluch. Going farther south to Abiko. 7,000-foot ash plume from Abiko. By the way, happy All Souls Day. I'm drinking my coffee black. Sakurajima also erupted, produced an 8,000-foot ash plume. And in central Mexico, Popocatépetl exploding, flight level 220, 22,000-foot ash plume from Popocatépetl. Fuego in Guatemala exploding, flight level 150 from Fuego. Nevado de Ruiz, no volcanic ash observed over Colombia. Don't assume it's not erupting. Please don't pole vault the caldera. Sangay in Ecuador exploding, flight level 240. That's an uptick, I think it's Sangay. Revenador exploding, flight level 150, 15,000-foot ash plume, and 24,000-foot ash plume over Sabancaya as it explodes. It's a flight level 240 over Peru. Largest quake of the past 24 was a 6.0. There's the 90-day bar graph, the convenient 90-day bar graph from Volcano Discovery. And here's the largest quake of the past 24. Check it out. It's like nowhere near a plate boundary. Just out in the Pacific Ocean there. It was a 6.0 magnitude. And it came in earlier this morning at 4:53 Universal Time. Let's scroll up the list. There were some other 5+ magnitude quakes, but no other major quakes here. 5.0 magnitude quakes included. This one here at El Salvador. That was at 13:35 yesterday afternoon, Universal Time. China had a 5.1 quake. A quake in China. A China quake. China quake. Probably created in a laboratory, that 5.1 magnitude earthquake. Okay. Japan had a 5.1. Chile had a 5.3. That was at 2:37 this morning. Again, that 6.0 in the North Pacific there, that happened at 4:53 Universal Time this morning. And it's time to get back to space. So here's some more composite imagery. These wavelengths are both ionized iron. And the 131 angstroms wavelength is good at showing solar flares. It takes 10 images per minute instead of only 2. The 193 angstroms is good at showing the outer corona, as well as coronal holes and filaments, like this huge filament down here. A very picturesque filament there showing up in the southeast. One of the CMEs that we'll be covering came from this area right here. We actually streamed it yesterday live on the Twitch channel. Twitch.tv/SmashoMash is the official Twitch channel of the Smash News Network, so check that out. Maybe install the mobile app if you haven't already done so. Twitch.tv/SmashoMash. That's the last 24 hours from SDO, the Solar Dynamics Observatory. Radio flux has come down to 128 solar flux units. And there you have the 1-year graph there of the radio flux as well as the sunspot number. Sunspot number depicted in red. Radio flux depicted in black. And the Space Weather Enthusiast dashboard here, not expecting any sort of space weather storms. Although there is a coronal hole high-speed wind stream on the way, so it's got to be showing up. I don't know, maybe it's depicted there on November 4th where it shows KP3. I'm expecting that to be a little more interesting than a KP3, but we'll have to see what happens. We'll show you why here in a moment. It's a trans-equatorial coronal hole. So here's Earth's magnetic moment from space the past 4 hours. You will see some variations, I believe, as we just saw some changes in the solar wind. Fairly geomagnetic calm conditions, though. So that's your pressure over the last 4 hours. Here is your geospace delta B, Earth's magnetic moment from the ground, magnetic flux density, also the last 4 hours. This will show you the most likely places for aurorae. And if you have aurora imagery or videos, hit us up on Twitter. We'll talk more about Twitter a little bit later. That's the last 4 hours, Earth's magnetic moment from the ground. And let's move into some geomagnetic data. So we're at a KP 2.67 right now. Geomagnetically calm conditions there. Briefly flirted with KP4 once again, just a few hours before we streamed the video. Next, looking at the real-time solar wind here. Current conditions are about 437 kilometers per second for the velocity. Solar wind density there about 5.25 protons per cubic centimeter. Everything else fairly uneventful. Let's get into magnetic data. There are your GOES magnetometers. Some swings there around midnight local time for the GOES 16. By the way, that's what these N's and M's stand for. See these M, that M right there, that's midnight local time for the GOES 16. And there's noon local time for the GOES 16. Those satellites are trans-equatorial satellites with a near equatorial orbit. These geosynchronous satellites are at about 22,000 miles of altitude. Next, we'll look at the heliospheric current sheet. This is from ground-based instruments as well as magnetometers on stereo A over here and stereo B over here at Lagrange point 4. 51 ground-based magnetometers are used for this data. And it's one of the most important data sets that we have for forecasting solar activity. So I would suspect we may see additional sunspots showing up here in the northern hemisphere. But at the moment, there's a bit of a magnetic tug-of-war going on the east side of the sun. Here is our line-of-sight field plot, as we have activity in both hemispheres over in the east. The sun's a B field here depicted in blue. That's the field that goes through the magnet, this magnet being the sun. Solar polar fields in red for south and green for north. And let's move to coronal holes. As the solar cycle 25 progresses, we've got some south pole-oriented coronal holes rotating up here, rotating in up here in the northeast. And let's take a look at the viewpoint from SDO in 211 angstroms. Probably the best wavelength to show coronal holes. This also shows the outer corona. And you can see this trans-equatorial coronal hole. We should expect a high-speed stream from that in about 2 days. Not sure why NOAA's not forecasting that. Maybe it's not expecting geomagnetic unrest conditions. I would also note this huge filament down here. There are lots of filaments on the Earth-facing portion of the solar disk. We will cover that later. Thanks for leaving a comment, TinMan1057, and let's move to sunspots. Good morning to you as well. So as expected, we did see some new named sunspot groups. 3138, 3137, And there may be some more sunspots here rising over the northeast. When we did show prep, they weren't sunspots. We'll look at those in high res a little bit later. Here are some 24-hour SDO videos. This is the magnetogram. And here's a close-up of that. We intentionally zoomed up a little bit to the north there because we wanted to include that sunspot in the northeast. So there is your SDO continuum imagery. Mostly stable here as far as sunspots, although this group down here quickly evaporated. Still might be a sunspot, but just barely holding on to those umbrae. There is indeed a new group right up here, so that'll be 3139. 2 new groups up there. Maybe even 3 new groups up there. So a little bit of an increase there in the northern hemisphere sunspot count. Here we've added 171 angstroms to it. One of the many species of ionized iron that's covered by the SDO. And for you new viewers, those images there, that 171 angstroms portion, that is the part of the extreme ultraviolet spectrum, not visible to the naked eye and not visible from ground level. Those wavelengths are filtered out by Earth's mesosphere, so you've got to have spacecraft to view those extreme ultraviolet wavelengths. It gives us all sort of insight into the sun's different features. Next, moving to energetic particles. A minor uptick happening right now as we stream the video. I don't think it's going to amount to much. Flaring has been minimal here. The largest flare of the past 24 is this one right here at C2.29. Let's take a look at that. In 94 angstroms, one of the other wavelengths to view solar flares. It also takes 10 images per minute instead of only 2. Things pretty calm here as far as solar flaring goes. There is a potential for major flares. We've got lots of sunspots, and they are mostly beta-gamma class sunspot groups, the groups that have both polarity umbrae. Next, we've got a star chart here, and if you're up before dawn, you might see Mars pretty close to Orion there in your sky. And interestingly, Orion's belt, the center star in the belt, makes a perpendicular line from the belt to Betelgeuse. So we've highlighted that on the imagery there. 2 bright red objects there in the sky, Mars and Betelgeuse, appearing red even to the naked eye. Go check that out if you're up before dawn. Betelgeuse plus Mars. And that star chart is from in-the-sky.org. That's what's going on over Lehigh Valley. Let's do a solar system forecast. Here's where things are now. We'll advance this 1 week as we approach a full moon, the November full moon, which will be on about the 8th. There's where things will be on the 9th. And let's move on to some coronagraphs. So again, we did have some CMEs. There's the George Mason University imagery from Stereo A. Quite a picturesque coronal mass ejection. Again, we did stream that yesterday on the Twitch channel at twitch.tv/smashomash. It was quite nice. And let's take a look at some more manipulatable, more interactive data from Stereo A and the Soho Lasco C3. So we paused this here at 1738. And it does not appear to be an Earth-directed coronal mass ejection. And for you new viewers, Earth would be off on this line from Stereo A's perspective. We've We've got Mercury and Venus showing up there on the Soho-Lascaux C3, by the way. And let's just let those play through, as it is nothing more than an interesting fireworks display, not an earthly directed coronal mass ejection. Once again, shout out to All Souls. Yes, All Souls. It is All Souls Day today, and if you're wondering what that is, All Souls Day is the day which is the Protestant answer to the Catholic answer to Halloween. So the Catholic Church decided to create a holiday called All Saints Day on the day after Halloween, and then the Protestant Church decided to create another holiday in response to that called All Souls Day to honor all souls as opposed to just saints. Here's the last 24 hours from SDO 304 angstroms plus Soho-Lascaux C2 and C3. And yes, indeed, we've got a CME happening there. See up in the, it looks like it's on the far side of the sun, actually. Right at the end of the video there, just propagating as we stream. And if we zoom out, have even better imagery of that. Quite nice. Also Mercury there behind the Earth scale. And if you're wondering what this is Venus. All right, let's continue on. Check out the filament count. This is the ground-based solar observatory at Lurmonth, Australia. And look at all these dark absorption features. Huge number of filaments right now. So we can expect to see ongoing coronal mass ejections here for days. Likelihood of coronal mass ejections, including in the earthly zone, are nearly at 100%. Of course, there is one happening as we stream the video. So it's a coronal mass ejection watch and warning. Here is the last about 2.5 hours from the GOES 16 SUVI. And here's the last 24 hours from SDO. You can see this great filament reorientation and then ejection right up here. Right there, watch that area. See a bunch of plasma moving around, and then whoops, it's gone. It will be missing Earth to the north and west. This filament down here is looking increasingly unstable. It is quite huge. We'll be keeping an eye on it. And when I say ion, well, pardon the pun. Next, moving into bonus features. At the satellite's community dashboard, we're seeing some minor surface charging hazards here over Mexico. For our satellites, shouldn't cause too many problems. Here is your GOES electron flux, which I believe we're seeing return to a little more normal levels here, although it is around midnight local time for the satellites. So we'll have to see what happens there. Here's the NOAA forecast. NOAA expecting a dip in the electron flux. No arguments from me there. The green boxes are the forecast. The yellow diamonds are not lucky charms. Those are the observations. Here's the one-year chart to put it in context from Solon.info. Let's take a look at the F ionosphere there, located at 300 kilometers of altitude. It is the bridge between Earth and space. This is the vibrational frequency up there at about 300 kilometers of altitude, the location of the F ionosphere. We do see significant anomalies. So that's the raw data in megahertz. This is the anomaly in megahertz from a 30-day median. And again, seeing huge low-frequency anomalies here over places like the southern Indian Ocean, Antarctica, the Atlantic, even North America, seeing some significant low-frequency anomalies shown up there in red. It shows high-frequency anomalies in blue. And let's bring up the latest image here. There's 1015 universal time ionogram and 1015 universal time anomalygram. We'll also show the total electron content forecast. It is the electron count between the inner portion of the outer Van Allen belt and your GPS handset. That's where your satellite's located. It's about 12,500 miles of altitude, and those free electrons can cause signal refraction. So here is your total electron content for North America. Yeah, it's up-to-date data, as we were showing old data here for a few days, because the regular Space Weather Prediction Center total electron content forecast on the global scale is not updating. So there's North America. It's showing you the approximate positional error there. Which is in meters, I guess. Yeah, in meters. Here's the standard deviation. And then here's the anomaly. That is the total electron content from about 12,500 miles of altitude down to your GPS handset. Continuing on to our latest intensitygram and latest colorized magnetogram. So we do have a few sunspot groups that are going to get named up here. Well then, that's beta gamma class. So without getting into the gory details of it, there's your rock back. Most of the activity here now returning to the northern hemisphere. I think there is a South Pole heliospheric current sheet on the way. Let's take a look at some more imagery of SDO before we move into the meteorology segment. That is yesterday plus today. 2 species of ionized iron and 1 species of ionized helium. That's 304 angstroms. 211 plus 171 are the iron. Keep in mind they are depicted in different colors here. So the 211 normally looks like a purplish color. Here it's depicted in green. 171 is normally like a gold color. Here it's depicted in blue. The 304 angstroms is indeed depicted in red. So let's move to meteorology. But first, let's pause for station identification. Once again, thanks for tuning in to the Smash News Network. Least busted name in news. Make sure you follow us on Twitter if you haven't. If you don't have a Twitter account, why not get one? Since big tech can't break the internet, although it's trying very hard, indeed the internet can break big tech. Check out some of their share prices. If you don't follow us on Twitter, you'll miss out on all kinds of things that are stated. Whoa, we've made it all the way to 340 followers. If you don't have a Twitter account, create one. No, Elon has not fixed censorship on the internet. People think that there's some kind of lever that Elon can pull and it's just going to erase people's shadow bans, and that's not how it works. Improve your health instead of going on social media by visiting our links. You can find a link to SureMed below the video. A membership with SureMed is not insurance. It's a membership with the American Better Health Organization, otherwise known as SureMed, focused on improving your health. So get all sorts of ancillary benefits by being a member of SureMed, like doctors by phone, counselors by phone, virtual veterinarians, since your pet's health may affect yours, huge discounts on pharmacy products, also on vitamins, labs, CT scans, and lots more, like dental and vision. Visit the links below the video. And on our homepage at smashomash.com, you'll find links there to SureMed. I'm a member. Why aren't you? Next, visit our homepage. Again, you can find links there on the homepage to SureMed, and welcome to the Neo Renaissance. Congratulations on realizing that the channel and the website exist. Please help us out with clicks. Visit our other links. Hit us up on social media. Let us know in the comments what your favorite social media site is. Press like, press subscribe, press share. leave us a comment, even a derogatory one. We find those hilarious. If you think you're going to somehow affect me, if you think you're going to offend me, think again. Other links you can find on the homepage are to Hemp Lucid. So right there's a link to Hemp Lucid, so check that out. There is a Black Friday sale already going on. You can save 40% store-wide. So perhaps check that out. Just click the Shop Now icon. The products are quite good and quite potent. They're the most populars, most popular being the water-soluble CBD tincture. Another link you can find on the homepage is to the Smash-O merch. The items will be featured in order of best-selling. Of course, the best-selling product there features words that we can't say in a video that's designed for YouTube because of the pathetic censorship by organizations like Google, Twitter, Apple, Meta, etc. Today's featured product is a re-release. Surprised it's so low on the bestseller list here. It is Smasher Price, My First Pandemic. And congratulations on surviving a global pandemic. So far, you've been doing a fine job. I mean, I'm pretty sure back in January of 2020, we told people to focus on their general health and their nutrition and so on because the virus is going to become endemic. I seem to remember being right over and over and over again. Of course, there's a forum thread also at smashomash.com/forum, since one of our portions of our mission is to increase people's understanding of things to help reduce liability and risk and save lives no matter what the adversity is. So yeah, maybe get yourself a Smasher Price My First Pandemic throw pillow, or what about an apron? Lots of products available there. They make great gifts. Congratulate your friends and foes on surviving a global pandemic so far. Scam. With the Smasher Price My First Pandemic. So again, it's a re-release. I'm actually wearing it right now. Let me show it off. There you go. Just mask the world. It'll be very effective, I'm sure. Once again, congratulations on surviving a global pandemic so far. You're welcome. You can find links to the Smash-O merch on our homepage as well as on the Smash Team site. If you want to support the channel via subscription services, increase the probability that these videos will continue to exist, remain publicly visible, and free for all to view. We've put them behind paywalls on multiple occasions to try to get some support. And of course, we watched the YouTube views just decline and just go all over the place. Let's see, yesterday's video only had like, 90 views. I think the one before that only had like 70 views or something like that. It's only the most detailed space weather you'll find any place on the internet. I mean, what could possibly go wrong? I'll tell you what could possibly go wrong. People watching a bunch of nonsense on YouTube instead of facts. So help us out on the Smash Team site. Become a gold or silver Smash Team member. Smashomash.com/Smash Team. We replace Patreon with something superior, and we do provide additional content for gold and silver Smash Team members. The best value is the annual paid-up gold subscription. Help to counter the pathetic censorship by big tech on sites like YouTube, frankly. Press like, press subscribe, visit our playlists. Look at that, 68 views on our Halloween video. Maybe because we had the word Halloween in the title, I don't know. 91 views yesterday. Just pathetic. It's only the most detailed imagery of the sun you'll find any place in the known universe, as well as the most comprehensive space weather. YouTube.com/Smashomash, and let's get into meteorology. So we're looking at significant wave height here and ocean currents, as there is some Central American activity going on there, some 17-footers. And as we go to the northeast, we find larger and larger waves. There are some nearly 20-footers in the North Atlantic. And off the coast of Ireland, we're having some 27-footers. I'm always interested in wave heights. And if you go to the Southern Ocean, that's where the real action is. We've got some 30-plus footers down there in the Southern Ocean. Here are the surface winds of the eastern world. Since we're doing meteorology, we found it to be relevant. There you go. Here are the jet streams of the east. Jet streams of the Americas. The western world. Surface winds are depicted here. Surface winds of the central world, looking like this. It's Europe, Africa, and the Middle East. And here is the jet stream scenario for the central portion of the planet. Some huge bends in the jet stream happening down there in the Southern Ocean. Continuing on, this is the shortwave radiation map. It shows clouds and fog, and you can see the day-night terminator rolling in there on the east side. That's because the day-night terminator affects the detection of the infrared radiation here at 3.9 nanometers. And you can see those low pressures there in the Caribbean as well as in the North Atlantic, producing some larger waves than normal. Continuing on, here's our weather.gov map. If your county's lit, click your county. We've got a lot of winter weather advisories there in the western U.S. Not sure if those are covered by the mainstream news or not. I don't know. I don't care because I don't watch it. I mean, everybody's unplugged from all the nonsense on organizations like CNN, HNN, MSNBC, ABC, CBS, NBC. All a bunch of ridiculous corporate nonsense. Journalism, it's still not dead. However, growth on YouTube channels is completely dead. All right, so let's take a look at the GFS model for the next 72 hours for positive snow depth change. And we've actually got a 1-2 punch here coming to northern Idaho especially. There's a secondary storm rolling in after this first one, where they'll see about nearly 2 feet of snow there in portions of Idaho, also portions of Oregon. In the northeast portion of Oregon, expecting some quite significant snow totals, and some major snow totals here in eastern California as well. Check it out. Pushing the 2-foot mark there in eastern California. Again, that's your 72-hour GFS accumulated positive snow depth change in inches. We'll also show the pressure and precipitation forecast. Some heavy wet snows there rolling in to start out the month of November. Also some extreme weather expected to hit northwestern Washington, and also some very extreme weather to kick up there in eastern Oklahoma, Missouri, and Arkansas. Arkansas is going to get kaplastered here. Those storms there could produce damaging wind, hail, and indeed tornadoes. So keep an eye out for that. That's your 72-hour GFS pressure and precipitation forecast. A very strong low here will form over eastern Oklahoma and then move mostly eastward into Arkansas, Missouri, and then Tennessee and Kentucky. That's going to be a long-lasting system there in about 3 days. Yowzers. Let's take a look at the European model here for snow. We'll move this ahead about 3 days. There's the 72-hour European model forecast for snow depth. You can see indeed Idaho expecting some quite significant totals there. Expecting to have over 2 feet of snow there in portions of Idaho. Also portions of Washington here. Pushing 3 feet, over 3 feet of snow there, pushing 4 feet of snow in portions of Washington on the European model forecast. Next, looking at lightning. This is your NASA GOES lightning mapper. Those are where the strong storms have been hitting. And here's a real-time lightning map from lightningmaps.org, powered by blitzotung.org. Check it out next time you hear thunder. No terrestrial strikes in the U.S. here at the moment. So let's move on As we don't want the video to be too long, here is the U.S. Doppler radar map. Some heavy precipitation there in southern Alaska. We're going to focus on the lower 48 as snow falls in the northwestern portion of the country. Here's your shortwave radiation map showing clouds and fog. It's still dark over Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania. So we're showing shortwave radiation 3.9 nanometers. It's the interactive weather satellite suite, which also has water vapor, and here is that, as this low pressure north of Bermuda gets pushed to the east. That should clarify things for you. Here's your recap. The U.S. Doppler radar for the lower 48 states of ALSA, the allegedly United States of America. There is the clouds and fog view. And there is the water vapor view. Once again, Happy All Souls Day. Drink your coffee black to honor all souls. I've been your host, Dan, a.k.a. Smash-A-Mash, signing off. And may that solar wind be at your back.